Well, another day and first snow of the winter. It's -1, it's really cold. But we've got to get on. I was supposed to be having a day off today, but it got cancelled. My trip out got cancelled. So now I'm back onto rubbing the doors down. So I'm going to give this door, which is in primer, a good rub down. And I have the other door over here, which I have actually put one top coat on, which I did about a year ago. And I'm going to just rub this one down and get them both prepped up, ready for a bit of paint so I can hang them on the car. When I was stone chipping the bonnet, I had the door up against the wall there, and I managed to cover the door with stone chip. So what I'm doing, just giving it a quick DA off with some 500 with a 500 disc, just clean off the worst of the stone chip, and then I'll block sand it down. So I've cleaned most of the stone chip off. What I'm going to do now is wet sand it with some 400 wet and dry. But before I do that, I'm just going to put a guide coat over it so I can see what I'm doing. So you can buy special stuff for this, but a can of matte black works just as well. You don't want to cover it, you just literally want to put the lightest coat on. So from a good distance away, just literally just put the lightest coat over. Right, that's it. So just got a very, very light coat of black over it. Now, when you sand that black off, once it's all gone, you'll know your panel is perfectly flat. Now, the longer a sanding block you've got, the flatter your panel will be. But I've only got a little one at the moment, so I'm going to use that. So starting from the bottom, do nice long strokes. And as you can see, it's taking the black off really quick. This paint's actually quite smooth. I sprayed this with my suction gun, not with the gravity feed gun that I don't like. But if you watch that, that's taking it off quite quick. Just give it a wipe off with a sponge, and now you can see the bits that aren't flat. If you wipe it with a bit of towel, there you go. There's actually a couple of little high spots there where I flatted through the primer. So they'll want a little dust of primer before it's painted. But you can see there, see the bits where there's still black on it, so that needs sanding more. Now the thing with prepping for paint is the flatter you get it, the smoother it is, the better a paint job you're going to get. Now here, I've gone through the primer, lots of places. Tough luck, I'll just have to reprime it. If you don't flat it out properly, you'll never get a good job. So if it happens, it happens. Just flat it out, reprime it, flat it again. Takes a bit more time, but if you want it right, that's the way it's got to be. That's it all flatted down and wiped off. It's just drying the last bit. Now there's quite a few bits where you can see I've gone through. That's not a problem. I'll put another coat of primer over it. There's one little bit here where there's a little dink in the panel. Now, as you can see, round this panel, it's flatted to the primer, which means that's the same height as the primer. If you had a little black ring round it from the black I put down, then that would mean that this is sticking up higher and you'd have to tap it down. But because all the black has gone, it should be smooth, so I can just prime over it and it will go. There's quite a few bits where I've gone through, But the big thing, sorry about sunshine coming through the window and bouncing off it. The big thing about painting is prep. Now, if you've never sprayed a car and you don't think you can do it, you can. There's 3 stages to painting. 2 of them are really important and 1 of them's not quite so important. 3 stages are preparation, spraying and polishing. Now, the 2 important ones out of that are preparation and polishing. The spraying bit, the better you spray, the less work you'll have to do in polishing. But if you're not very good at it, as long as you get the paint on heavy, you can polish it back. I'll tell you a story. Many years ago, when I used to deal in Range Rovers, I bought from an auction a 2-door classic Range Rover, which had been sprayed in an American custom colour, black tulip. It was a very, very dark purpley black with a very heavy metallic in it. It wasn't a metal flake, it was just a very, very heavy metallic. Now, this particular car, which I saw at auction, looked awful. It looked like it had been painted with Raptor, which is basically like Underseal, if you don't know what Raptor is. But Raptor didn't exist in those days. This had just had an extremely heavy coat of paint. It was the worst orange peel I'd ever seen in my life. It was flat, it had no gloss to it, it was full of bits of grit. It looked terrible. And I stole it at auction because everyone else was turning their nose up at it. So I took it back to the workshop and I spent a solid week flatting and polishing it. And this car looked stunning. It was beautiful. It had turned out as one of the best paint jobs ever. It looked like a Rolls Royce, but in this black tulip, which was absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, a trader came into my workshop for something else and he saw this 2-door sitting there and he was all enthusiastic about it and he was, oh, that's brilliant, oh, it's a beautiful colour and really, really nice, can I buy it? So I named him a price and he went, yeah, I'll have it. And I thought, oh, I didn't name enough. And he bought the car there and then and drove it away. And he paid me twice what I paid for it at auction, which was one of the best profits I've ever made on a car. It looked stunning. The prep had been done properly. The painting was awful, but a really, really good flat and polish. And that car looked absolutely fantastic. Now, the best bit of the story is that trader had been at the auction when I bought the car and didn't recognise that it was the one he was turning his nose up at. So, preparation, polishing, put the paint on. If it's a bit orange peely, it's just more work. You've got to flat and polish it. The smoother you put it on, the less flatting and polishing you've got to do. But as long as there's enough paint on there, you can recover pretty much any rubbish paint job. Now, this one's the passenger door, and I did paint it in a bit of a hurry a year or 2 ago when I first started this car. And there's a few little tiny marks in it that I've just filled over. So this one just wants a good flat now, and then yeah, just a mark. This just wants a good flat, and then this one will be ready to actually top coat. I might have to primer it again. I'll see what's happened when I've given it a good flat off. Now, this is what I was saying earlier. If you've got a high spot, you can see around the edge of it, the black, which you can't rub down because this is too high. So you keep rubbing this until those black bits disappear. You know you've got it perfectly flat. If you've got black bits around the edge of it like that, then it's not flat. The same with that little dent that I showed you on the other one. If it had black bits around it, then the dent would be high. But because the black bits are gone, the little dent upwards is smooth with the bodywork. So keep rubbing till all the black bits go. Now what I've got, I've rubbed it a bit further, is I've still got a little bit of black around these edges, but I'm going into the primer. Because I'm rubbing over a big distance, I'm actually going into the primer here and here. So this tells me this is actually a low spot around the edge. So what I'm going to have to do is put a little bit more stopper or filler just around here, spread this out a bit more so it becomes flat with the rest of the surface. Right, time to prime them both again. I've been thinking about it, and these low spots are so slight that I think in Old English white they'd be pretty much unnoticeable, but I'd know they were there. So I'm going to prime them both again, and then tomorrow I'll flat them back down. Well, some days you have a day where you feel like you haven't really achieved anything because you're back where you started at the beginning of the day. The target today was to get the doors flatted down and ready for paint. And my target on Monday will be to get the doors flatted down and ready for paint. Having said that, I now know that they're going to be flat. I've said it before, I love this primer. Pro XL. It's been sprayed about 20 minutes ago. I've had the heat on for 10 minutes. It's touch dry already, and it's so smooth. You can't hear it. There's no grittiness to it. It's almost impossible to get a run in it, no matter how heavy you put it on. And it just leaves a really, really nice finish. You can almost get away with just rubbing this down with a Scotch cloth and then painting over it. But I've got I've got 3 really heavy coats on it. So I'll leave it now till Monday to cure off. And it should be ready then for a quick flat off and a bit of paint. But I'm happy with it. They look nice and flat and smooth. I can't see any big dents or ripples in them. They look pretty good. So yeah, happy with that. So that's it for this one. Well, off to the workshop, and it's -3 degrees. Lovely. Gonna need a bit of heat on today. Well, it is 0 degrees in the workshop. Bit cold. Time to get all the blowers going. I'll get the gas one and the diesel, get a bit of temperature up in here before I can do anything. Right, I've left the workshop for 15 minutes. It's warmed up enough. I'm not actually shivering now. I've made a cup of coffee. Cheers. Now what I'm going to do is sort out the jobs that I've got to do. So I'm going to turn this fire off because it's quite noisy. Got a bit of temperature now. We're up to 67 degrees. That's quite warm enough. So one of the main reasons that a lot of car restoration projects get abandoned is because people realise how much work they've got themselves into. They'll buy a car, start off with a massive enthusiasm, take it all to bits, and then they'll stand back and look at it, and it will seem like a massive project, and it gets a bit overwhelming. The way to deal with it is break every single job down into separate jobs. Don't look at the whole car and think, well, can't really cope with that. If you look at this now, it looks like there's a ton of work wants doing, and it can be very off-putting. But the way I do it is just break it down into individual jobs. And as you crack each individual job, you obviously get towards the total. Like, for example, I've painted the top of the bulkhead, I've refitted the windscreen, the wipers, the washers. That bit is done, it's finished. There's no more to do with that. Likewise with the doors. The next week is going to be one of the most tedious for me because it's days and days of just flatting and prepping and possibly repriming and flatting and prepping, and it just goes on and on forever. So break it down into individual jobs. All I'm looking at today is flatting the doors and getting the doors ready for paint. Not sure if I'm going to paint them yet or not. I'm still undecided, but I'm going to get them ready for paint. So that's the target for the day. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my trusty can of matte black. And now I'm shaking the camera because I'm shaking the can. Get my trusty can of matte black and just very gently dust over the panel from a distance, just so I get very, very light coat of matte black over the door. Now, as I said before, as I flat it, that matte black will disappear and I'll know that I've got the panel flat. Now, as I said the other day, this primer is brilliant. It's so smooth. You can't hear it. It's really, really smooth. So I'll just give it a minute for the matte black to dry off properly and then I'll start flatting it. Wish me luck. When you're flatting down, use nice long strokes. It looks on the time-lapse video like I'm using short ones, but that's a thing of the time-lapse. Nice long strokes, and I tend to keep a bit of paper in my hand so I can just wipe off and see what I'm getting. It's just long, tedious work, but if you get it right, you'll end up with a much, much nicer paint job than if you ignore this step. Right, that's my two doors flatted down. They've come out pretty good. I do have a couple of minor breakthroughs. There's a little one on there. There's a couple down the bottom edge here. And on this door, I obviously didn't put enough primer on because it's broken through along the edge of the window. So I will just dust a bit of primer over those. And I'll dust a coat of primer over before I put the top coat on. Next job is to turn them over and do the fiddly bit of rubbing all the insides down. Now this one has been really annoying and both the captive plates for the hinges have fallen out, and I don't know how I'm going to get back in again because my hands aren't small enough to get in here. So I'm going to have to find a 10-year-old from somewhere to feed these back in. I've never had them drop out before in all the ones I've restored, so that's going to be an interesting little problem getting them back in again. Right, I've decided I'm going to hang these doors before I do anything else and make sure all my shut lines are good. So I've got to try and get these back in. Now, come up with a cunning plan. Probably won't work, but I'll give it a try. What I'm going to do is feed this bit of wire through the hole in the door, get hold of the end of it, make sure that's the right way round, pop it through there, tie a knot in it, can't come off. It's quite heavy wire this, so right, get a knot in it. Now I'm going to try and draw this down to where it needs to be using a bit of wire, and I was hoping that I might be able to jiggle it about or use a magnet to get it in the right place. Be easy. I'm going to try this one, see if I can get this one in easier so I can reap. I don't know how they fell out because it, aha, got it. That's that one in. So it's just a matter of jiggling them in the right direction to get them to go in. I'm just going to pop a bolt in there for a sec so it can't fall back out again. Just put a bolt in that one. Right, that's one in. And believe it or not, as soon as I turned the camera off, I gave it a jiggle and it dropped straight into place. So now the interesting bit is going to be getting the hinges on without it falling out again. First thing I've got to do is find the 2 screws that go in that hinge. Right, I found the screws, and this is the proper, it's a British Leyland tool that actually fits the screws perfectly, stops you rounding them out. So what I've got to do now is get this bolt back out. This one's easy because I can hold it. So get that out, pop my hinge where it wants to be, put the screw in, and once I've caught this one, I'm okay on this one. Yep, got it. Okay, that's the first one, and the other 2 line up. The easy one. Now, I need to cut my wire off here. And I don't like that that's dropping away. The clip's obviously broken that holds it in place. What I'm going to try is put a block of wood in the door, push it down to the hinge and use it to hold the hinge in place. I'll get all my bits ready. Please don't fall out. Right, now get my hinge there ready, get my screw ready. Need octopus arms for this, and now pop that in, hold it with a block of wood, and I've got it. That's it, it's there. Right, I think after that, these hinges are so good, you wouldn't believe they're like 55-year-old hinges. They're still, there's no play in them, they're still quite good. No play at all. They could do with a little bit of oil on them when they're on the car, but that's it. So next job I'm going to do is hang both the doors, but first of all I'm going to go and have some lunch and warm up. Okay, so that's quite a nice even gap at the back of the door. At the moment this is too far in compared to that, so the door wants pulling out on the top hinge. So I'll loosen the top hinge off where it bolts to the door and then pull the door out slightly. Right, that's got the door, so if you can see, that's got the door perfectly flush now. So, it's just a gnat's low. It just wants lifting up tiny little bit. Now the good thing is I've got a good gap round here. You see so many of them where the door is jamming against the bulkhead, and that's got a nice gap all the way around it. Now the next important thing is the gap from the door to the bonnet. Now I need to put the bonnet catches back in so I can lock it down and get a true thing, but we'll have a look and see how horrendous this is. Okay, it's not too bad. It's a bit of a big gap, but it's straight all the way up. So all it wants is the bonnet wants to go back about 4 or 5 mil just to close that gap up. But I will put the bonnet hinges in first, the bonnet clamps in first, just to make sure that when you pull it down, sometimes it pulls it down differently. But looking at that, the line is nice. It just wants to go back and close that gap up a little bit. I want about the same gap as I've got here, which is probably about 4 mil. That's about the right sort of gap you should have. You see so many held Vitesses where the panels are all cramped up together, and it's where the bulkhead's not been fitted properly in relation to the rear tub. But this one, because it's never had the bulkhead or the rear tub off, there's no reason why it shouldn't line up. So I just need to put the clamps in, see what happens when I clamp it down. But the bonnet needs to go back just maybe half that gap. I need to close up. Right, that's the other door on. I'm a bit short of bolts for this one, but again, got a nice gap down there. Could maybe come back a millimetre. At the bottom of the door, it's a little bit tight just here. It's still miles away, but it's not the same gap as the rest of the door. Now the strange thing is, this is the original door. So it's never been skinned, never been messed about with. So it's weird, the gap's there, but I might file a bit off that edge just to make that a little bit more perfect. But I'm quite happy with that gap. I might close it up just a millimetre, but it's pretty good. So let's see what the bonnet's like on this side. I've unfortunately not got any bolts to put the catch in, so I'm going to have to nip to my nut and bolt shop and get some little bolts to put those in with. See what we're like this side. Okay. Well, first of all, the gap's not bad. This is in a bit. Once again, it's all original, so it's a bit weird, but once the catch is in, the catch will hold it out. So this side's okay. The gap's not bad at all. It's the other side. I need to just jiggle the other side of the bonnet very slightly to close the gap up. But this one's not bad at all. I think the bonnet wants to lift slightly at the front on this side because the gap here is bigger than the gap down here. So it just wants very slightly raising up at the front, which you can do on the hoop. You don't need to mess about with the settings at the front. If I loosen the hoop off and just gently bring the bonnet up, that should sort that gap out. So counting I've had the hoop out, it's not bad at all. So I'm quite pleased with that. So we've got the doors on, we've got good lines on the back wings. The bonnet just needs a little tiny bit of jiggling about. And again, this side literally just wants to come back a couple of millimetre and I'll be happy with that. So hopefully it shouldn't take too long just to jiggle it about and sort those bits out. Well, I need some more bolts to hold the doors on because a couple of them were so badly chewed up. I'm not putting them back, so I need to nip to my nut and bolt shop, get some bolts to fit the catches with, and get some more bolts for the door. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you could give me a like and a follow, that would be wonderful. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching. Cheers, bye.